So, welcome to Help the Helpers. I'm very glad you're here. I really need you this morning to make this thing happen. And I was afraid maybe nobody would show up, but that's just me. Of course, you would show up. Um, when I when I said that I was going to do a reflection about the social political embeddedness of the larger dimension of ourselves, um, I thought, well, that is a tall order. And when I mentioned it to people, they said, oh, good luck. And I knew just what they meant. Because when we talk politics, and that isn't what I want us to do, when we talk politics, something happens to us. And we go from our focusing, um, sensitive, introspective selves to some other way of being. And it's a way of being where we're either overwhelmed and withdrawn and, oh, I'm fed up with this world. Or we're very opinionated and we're saying it as it is, and why doesn't the world listen to me? I go into both of these places, of course. We talk over each other. We make fun of people that are on the other side somehow. We we are in a strange state when we talk politics. We lose our individuality sometimes. We lose the implicit intricacy. We lose our focusing. I don't want us to go there. So I want to make a distinction between talking politics and talking from our social political selves. And this is very important to me, to have this conversation with you. It's very important. I even had a dream about it. And in the dream, we were doing this big project and there were all these people, and I somehow intuitively knew this was the right time to begin it in the dream. And maybe that is the way I feel. And in a sense, I feel like I've been preparing through our community empowerment, through all the work on groups, to be able to have this conversation with you and to be able to have it in such a way that we aren't talking politics in the ordinary way. But why do I care? Why is it important to me? I'm not a political person. I don't like politics. But now listen to that. I'm not a political person. Can I say that? Is that true? Can any of us not be? We are interaction with the world. And of course, I'm a political person. All of us are political people. We're spiritual people. We're community people. We're individual people. We're historic people. We're people going into the future. That's a dimension of the interaction that we are. And that's why many of us say, well, we all are homophobic, racist, whatever, because that's in us somehow, because we are these larger systems, and we have to be aware of how we are interacting with the larger systems. So I don't want us to go to the political place, but I want us to go to the place where not only do we care about the world, but we know that we are the world. The world is us. There was a quote from Camus that I was so struck by as a young girl in college, and that came to mind this morning. He says that the challenge of life is to make of the outside world a home. To make of the outside world a home. So we as focusing people know a lot about making the inside world a home. And that's pretty difficult. And we've learned a lot about that. And we've learned something about making the interaction a home. But there's also this making of the outside world a home. And that's what I'd like to do this morning. Each one of us lives in a different room of that home. Some people live, some of us live in the United States with this looming election. Some of you live in many other places, which is what I love about this group. And the non-United States people are very important to this discussion. But you know, I picture that we're making of the outside world a home, and all of the people that we think of as political enemies, people on the other side, they're our roommates, right? We have to make a way to have conversation with our roommates, because it's pretty sad when you're living in a home where people aren't talking to each other and just making snide remarks and grumping around and being morose around the ones that they're not getting along with. So this morning, we're going to come from the place of being interested in our roommates. I had the experience yesterday that was very interesting. I think it prepared me for our reflection. I went to my church, which is right in my neighborhood, a progressive, I guess what people would call a liberal church. And a young minister from Guatemala was giving the sermon, and he was talking about the scripture that says that you have to love God and love your neighbors, because if you can't love the people that you can see, how can you love God that you can't see? So it's a wonderful scripture. And he was talking about ways that we can love people. But then he said, some people are very hard to love. He said, I have a very hard time loving the Trump supporters. I have a very hard time loving the people who are against abortion. I have a very hard time loving the people that deny climate crisis. I have a very hard time, and he kept going. He said, I have a very hard time loving the fundamentalist Christians. And as he was saying this, I felt myself getting very cramped up. Oh, I felt to myself, if my father were here, he's a fundamentalist, he was a fundamentalist Christian, how would he feel that this young minister would have such a hard time loving him? And I wanted to say something, but I felt very shy. and worry. Maybe he would feel criticized, and I wanted to support him. But I did go up to him right after the service, and I said to him how complicated and difficult the whole thing is. And I shared with him that if my father had come with me, he would have felt very hurt that the minister said he would have such a hard time loving my father, who is a fundamentalist Christian. And I said, if I had gone to my father's church, the preacher probably would have been talking about how hard it is to love lesbians, how hard it is to love these liberals, how hard it is. And I would have felt so hurt. And he really got the point, and he thanked me for pointing that out. And he said, well, it's the hateful ideas that are hard to love. And then I thought to myself afterwards, well, what are these hateful ideas? Are they really, is it the idea? What are the ideas? We don't even know sometimes. The people who hate lesbians aren't really hating me. They even the idea of a woman having a partner as a woman, I don't think that they're hating that idea. So if we bring our focusing selves, we're bringing all the implicit intricacy. We're not just seeing the people as boxes that are hard to love, but we're seeing the people as much larger than the ideas. And the ideas are much larger than the person, with all kinds of histories and stories. And, well, you get my point. Okay, I'm not going to talk on, but let me ask you to go to this place with me this morning. And breathe into this being that you are right here, right now, beginning this conversation with all of us. All of us that have roommates all over the world that we have to get to know and understand. And we are gathered here this morning to find that place in us that's open to the world, to understanding it, to seeing what it's really saying, to deeply listening with our bodies, to allowing ourselves to speak from that place in us that's larger than just our individual selves. And our individual selves are the carrier of this much larger dimension of being, many larger dimensions of being. And I'm hoping you have a paper and pen. Maybe you could jot down, what does that social political dimension of being in the world have to say? What comes to you in what I said? What do you know about the social political world dimension. And then you might think, well, I know this and this and this, or you might think I know nothing, but just let it come. What do you know there? And what don't you know? See if you can bring an interest and curiosity to what you don't know. You might first say, oh, I can't understand how people could think blah, 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 blah. But then see if you can feel the wanting. I want to understand. And see just for a minute if writing what you don't know affects or shapes or influences what you do know. If you go back to that, what you do know. And I know you're not finished with this. I'm hoping that we'll continue this afterwards, writing. You know, those of you who have gotten into the habit of writing from our August project. But let's slowly come back to the room when you're ready. I'm very eager to hear from you. Anything that you have to contribute to this conversation is very welcome. Let's try to really listen to each other, which I don't even have to say that because I think we do that.
I have something, Lynn.
Great.
What I know is that there are a lot of people with a lot of opinions. What I don't know is what's in their hearts.
Mm. 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 Yes. Wouldn't it be wonderful in a political conversation where the other person or the other people are denouncing or pronouncing, and you're saying, I really want to know what's in your heart. People would probably stop and say, what? Yes. Thank you.
Often people wouldn't have an answer for that.
It would,
out in the wild.
Yes, it would mean switching gears in another setting when they were getting married or when they were maybe even having a Thanksgiving dinner or whatever. If you said, I want to know what's in your heart, they would know, right? It's switching from one self to another self.
Mm.
And we're trying here to to make these bridges of selves.
I wrote, I know that my expectations for people, including myself, are very low. I don't know, well, nothing, because I think I know everything.
Mm.
I want to understand how I can know less so I can open up to knowing more.
Mm.
Very
That is
profound.
so beautiful. Really. I'm taking that in. I think I'm the same way. On some part of me thinks I know everything. And to recognize the not knowing, and that's of course the edge, right? That's what we know.
I think also, just to add, being trained in quote unquote social science, where over decades I've read, been presented with endless books, endless papers, about knowing that I'm in a context of, a million theories and intelligent, a world where everybody seems to know everything. It's hard to kind of toss that aside.
Yes. And the profession in psychotherapy, up until recently, it was our job to know, to know what's going on with the patients.
Lynn.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Michael.
No, Liz, you can go if you had something else to say.
I'd had a memory of after September 11th, 2001, and the terrorist attacks on the World Trade Center. And there seemed to be a zillion papers, conferences, books on shame. Everybody knew why the terrorists did what they did. And I had a friend not in this field at all who said, why do people do things like that? And I was saying, oh, blah, 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 blah. Now, decades later, I'm thinking, well, why, really, why, really, why do people do things like that?
Yes. But yeah.
When you introduced the social political and you started to talk about that, and then you just brought the group a moment of just tuning in, how we felt about it. That was, for me, tremendously important and different, because, like Liz said, at a certain point, we seem to know or want to know. We want to know about others, but like I said before, I am another for you, and you are another for me. We're all others. So why consider really our attention on what others think and understand? Because I'm another. What's happening within me? I'm the world. I'm a projection of what's happening like everybody else. No one knows why the hell we're alive and what we're doing here and where we're going. Jen said it to us. We're moving forwards toward not knowing. We don't know. And Lizzie said usually, I'd like to know less in order to be available to know more from a felt experience, not about conceptual stuff. And I think I myself get stuck into that, wanting to understand. Mary Jennings said, understand, going under whatever the knowledge is there. It's like, there's something that you brought by this tuning in that was a kind of kindness. It's offering me the experience of how delicate my life is when I tune in, and what I appreciate from focusing, of interacting and having a relationship with my own life, whatever that is. There's something mysterious behind that, but there's something really felt, which we probably know is not so easy to describe. But thank you for the attunement at the beginning. It it brought me towards something else than this conceptual trying to join in the conversation, like was said at the beginning. So thank you for that.
Thank you. When I thought about sharing that experience I had yesterday with the minister, I was a little cringy about it. And what was that? I felt like, can I tell them I go to church? I felt cringy about that. For those of you who don't speak English as the first language, cringy is sort of like, ooh, like that. Can I say my father is a fundamentalist Christian, and I was for a long time? Can I say that I'm a lesbian? all of these things made this like, ooh, and it felt like a risk. I'm wondering what things in this social political sphere do you feel like it would be a risk to say here?
Again, are you really all that? Or is it the way socially that we experience ourselves with what have been said and done? Or are we this life which is difficult to define what it is? So we put labels on it in order to seem to have an understanding of what we are and how we relate. You know, life, I don't believe any scientist or anyone genius has ever been able to define what life really is. And that, I believe, is what we are ultimately.
Yes.
You know, I wrote original fear in the chat, and I could go what I do with anything that makes me feel any form of fear inside is even one of my teachers said, the only thing I can experience is my self-contraction. It's this trying to have an understanding of life, which I'm full of fear of, so I self-contract and I become very conceptual. And so when we get this attunement, it brings us towards this living entity that we are. There's no label anymore.
Yes. I so agree with you, Machiel, and that's sort of another level up in my mind of all these spheres of systems that we belong to. And yet we are living together in the house of the world. Who's going to make the coffee in the morning? Who's going to do the dishes? What kind of house do we want to have? Are my antiques welcome in this house? What about the motorcycle that's in the doorway and I can't get out the door? Or there's also our concrete living together in this earth that comes into it that's very difficult for us to navigate. I just wonder what other people think about that.
One thing that I wrote down was it's a struggle to get connected. Be ready. Be ready.
Yes.
And as I said that, and here's the little cringy part that I didn't know whether I should add on, but it reminded me of the scripture of putting on the whole armor of God. You know, the breastplate of truth and all that, you know.
Yeah. Yes. Are you ready? And then the cringy part of referencing this script.
The words that came to me that, I mean, I just know there's so much I don't know, but love, hatred, and fear are the three words that come up for me so strongly, because there's so much hatred. And I think so much of that comes from a place of fear. We are all so frightened of something. Sometimes we don't even know what it is. And I want to think that love has more power over it. I don't know if that's true, but I certainly hope that it can be. And when I'm in conversation with people that I love, that have totally different opinions than me, if I can hold on to loving them, I can listen to them with interest. And it's a whole different experience. when it comes to people in politics that have such different frightening views, it helps me to be able to try to look underneath and what I think is driving them or what they don't have to do something differently and in a more loving way, so that I hate them. So I don't hate them. I just hate what they are doing. I terribly hate what they're doing. But if I think about their upbringing, go back into my psychiatric training and how ill they are underneath it all, it eliminates the hatred. And the hatred for me is what I see as so devastating and traumatic and damaging to the world, spiritually and every other way. And the more we can try to let go of some of that and look at.
I'm imagining being one of those people, Nancy, and you're loving me because you're able to imagine how really ill I am underneath my ideas. And that's our way. But I'm wondering how that is for the roommates.
I will jump in. And how would it be, Lynn, if we were loving you and with the fundamentalist view of you being a gay woman and saying how sick you were, you know, it has to get very real, very fast, you know. And when it does get real, then it gets exciting. We have a bit of passion in us, you know, because we're actually embodied, you know. And it's those that had that courage, you know, under any flag, you know, under any flag. And I'm thinking about the gay movement, you know, and the great gay pride, you know. It was that sort of courage that made it safer for even people to say, patronizingly, they're sick. They're just sick people, gay people. We know that.
That's not what I was thinking of, though.
I know you're not, but it's just fucking fun to have a little bit of adrenaline going, you know.
But that's just who somebody is. I'm thinking more the political kinds of things, like with the Trump goes. I'm thinking Trump when I say those words that I was saying.
Yeah. Anyway, I just sort of, that's what would have been scary for me to say. You asked earlier on, what don't I know? And what would be scary for me to say in this group? It would be scary for me to jump in and just have a bit of fun, not at anyone's expense, but it's like being so demure and so afraid to give a voice, you know, and always looking for that part that always looking for a part that is sacred, you know, and godlike.
Right. So you have the part that wants to just come in and have some fun and get the adrenaline going.
I don't know if it's that I have some fun, but it's no fun just looking deeper and deeper all the time to find this Christ-like consciousness, you know, to so that I can find words and make an opinion, you know.
And Nancy, did Pauline get your adrenaline going a little bit when she was challenging you? And I guess I was challenging you also.
I wonder whether is it okay for me to jump in?
Oh, Roxanne, before you do, I would love to. I'm not so sure whether. Sorry, Roxanne. I just love to hear Nancy's answer to Lynn's question, because this is a conversation, you know. We're having a conversation. We're safe here. I feel safe. And if I don't, and if anyone's hurt, we are 25 of us able to pick up the pieces after this, you know. People's opinion will be hurt. Some people just are afraid anyway, you know.
Go ahead,
Anyway,
Nancy, and then Roxanne.
Okay, I'm not sure what the question is. What question did you want me to answer?
I think I was asking, Pauline wanted to get our adrenaline going and for us to not be so serious. And yeah, and I wondered if the challenge to what you said did get your adrenaline going.
Not really.
No.
I guess, well, I mean, there was a piece of me that wondered, oh, here I am speaking up, and just leaving myself a bit more out there and vulnerable, but it's okay here.
Mhm.
So I guess the adrenaline doesn't start storming. There might be a little something there, but I feel safe here.
It got my adrenaline going because I thought, oh, I love that about Pauline. She likes a good, a good fight. She likes the challenge.
Lynn, I do not like fighting. I absolutely hate fighting because I've been so hurt by fighting. I've been so hurt in groups that are so quiet and demure and are not to be seen anywhere. And these are therapists I'm talking about.
Yes,
so
yes.
I'm not doing this for fun, and I'm not doing it for anyone else, only my own self, because I feel safe and possibly safe in my own skin, for the first time in whatever, in a group, So it's not, I'm not fighting. I'm not challenging Nancy. I'm not challenging the group. I'm just being myself.
Yes. And that was, I learned what you meant, that the demure, quiet, you've been hurt by that.
Oh, I don't know, Lynn. Please don't interpret what I'm saying. I can talk for myself.
I was trying to reflect. Could somebody do a better job reflecting what Pauline was saying? Just say it one more time,
Pauline, you're on mute. I think I hear Pauline saying that she just loves having an arena here and hasn't had it before, even with therapists, where she could just say what she's feeling. And it doesn't mean, even though Pauline might come across with strength in her voice and energy, it doesn't mean that she wants a fight, even a disagreement. She just wants to represent herself. I don't know if Pauline, wants to get her voice out.
Yes.
Without any fanfare,
Was that right, Pauline?
I've kind of lost the plot in the sense of, I don't know why anyone would interpret what I'm saying and ask me, is that what I meant? Because I said it in my own words. I'll say it a different way if you want me to say it a different way, So it's that, and I suppose it's that robustness is political, but not political in the sense of power, in individual power,
Yes. The robustness is what you want to say is, I'm not interpreting, I'm highlighting, I'm underlining. It's the robustness that is political.
Yeah, again, I think I agree with you, Lynn. I think that when you said, that help the helpers are till now, that I think, and that was sort of what is happening at the weekend as well, that it is time for change, even because it is power, therapy is power, and maybe it's time to see what's about, politically.
Yes.
So thank you. Yeah.
Roxanne.
Yeah. What if we change by not changing? Well, I kind of lost the plot and I wanted to highlight the word capitalism. Well, Lynn, thanks so much for your topic today, like social, political dimension of self. And because recently I just had a conversation with my friend who's a sociologist, and he said that psychotherapy, psychologists, whatever counselors tends to focus on the psychological aspect and ignore the sociological aspect. And on that hard on like being gay or whatever social economic status or whatever, fundamentally being a fundamentally Christian, all these things like sort of has some link to capitalism in some ways, right? And capitalism, despite it being an economical system, but it influenced the politics, it influenced our social life. And particularly mental health, we think of it, it tends to fall in the psychological realm. But mental health itself is political with its links to the DSM, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, and usually cis white heterosexual males are in the DSM task force, right? And yeah, all these are like me, it will cause a lot of revolts for those who are families. And homosexuality used to be in the DSM, and it was removed in 1973. I mean, even though it was already removed from the mental health Bible, it may not change the minds of people. People might still think that it is out of the norm because heterosexuality is the norm. But all these social norms are constructs. And they are just cognitive concepts and ideas, right? It can be the rights for, well, abortion against abortion is aligned with capitalism because capitalism has the idea of passing down your wealth to the next generation so that it will keep within the same family line. Rather than us coming together as a community, yes, we are not blood related, but imagine all of us sharing our resources and help one another, even though we don't have family ties. Mm. And that is against capitalism. And another thing, therapy is very political in a sense where we have inherent power in the therapeutic settings where it's kind of a lopsided relationship where the clients gonna tell us, like, if they trust us, they're gonna tell us every single thing, whatever dark secrets they have. But we are just like, wow, we are listening, we are validating, and we think that, wow, I'm powerful, I know, or even with us being a focusing-oriented therapist, wow, I have the capability to be the expert in facilitating that experience. While being truly person-centered, we don't dictate the content, but I still pride out. But maybe sometimes the egoistic part of me, now I still want to be truly person-centered, and I pride myself in my skill set. For instance, like being a good therapist, I feel good that I can elevate the person's distress, elevate the person's mental well-being, and yeah, therapy. It is still an idea where getting people to seek professional help versus in the common setting, like if let's say people have the safe space to just share whatever they want to share without being sidelined, without being alienated, without being silenced, antagonized, the world increase their level of consciousness, like the highest extent, like Christ-like consciousness or whatever God or spiritual figures that we enjoy or adore. The world will just unite, and then we'll just coexist with the diversities without separations.
I lost there some bit, but what I was picking up on, and Shashi has something to say, was about capitalism and about therapy being political. Yeah. Shashi, go ahead.
Can I say something?
Yeah, I was.
I'm afraid that the time's going to run out and I won't have a chance to say something. So I'm saying it because I have nothing profound to say, except I feel like I'm a little frog that lives in a well. And I've tried to make my well quite big. And I'm trying to make it big, but a serpent comes and wants to live in my neighborhood, and that serpent eats the frogs. Where are my social political views gone in that situation?
Yeah. Yeah. That's a big question. Yes. Feels like we have to get to feel that edge, the edge that where there's a terrible conundrum, where the Palestinians and the Israelis, and right there, that edge.
Or I'm living in Kiev and my family died in the war. Where is my social political thing?
Yes.
Very nice to have all these profound ideas, I think, but where is it? When I'm really faced with this serpent and me being a frog, where do I go?
Yes. When we're faced with the serpent, where does the frog in us go? I'm wondering, this feels like an important moment, Sashi, and I'm wondering, should we go into breakout rooms and take it from here in small groups, or should we stay together in the large group? What do you think?
I don't know the answer. I mean, I was trying to be really very.
Yes.
Bigger. I'm trying to make my well bigger. But
you were asking the question, right? But just I'm asking everybody: should we stay together or have small groups?
I think there might be a couple more people that want to speak. I think Rachel might want to speak, and I might want to speak.
Okay.
But if people prefer groups, I'm enjoying this conversation. It's enriching.
Do you this?
Pardon me?
I'm eager to get to what you wanted to say there, but I want us to notice this moment because it was a political moment, right? We had to decide as a group, do we break up into small groups or do we stay together? And Marianne, you were speaking from yourself, but also giving something to the group. And I was thinking, oh yes, we'll stay together. What did you have that feeling? It was like, oh yes. And how did we make that decision? Maybe some of you will be disappointed, but some were saying, oh yes, we want to hear what Rachel says, and we want to hear, Marianne, what you were going to say, and I'm giving it back to you.
I want to stay in the living room.
Okay. Okay. Well,
I wonder if there isn't, oh, I'm sorry, just going to say quickly, I wonder if there isn't a feeling of the group as a whole today.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Go ahead, Marianne.
Okay. Well, a lot has surfaced for me from the very beginning, so I'm not really sure where to start or what. So let me just, some of what you were saying in the beginning, LYNN, reminded me of like the holographic view, like where like a little, you can take a piece of something and it represents the whole, like it has all of the whole in it. And I really felt called to speak because I had some stuff to say, but then the subject changed, so my notes really weren't as relevant. And when Pauline spoke about being, about the demure, I have been labeled that, and I may come across like that. And so just the processing this has helped me to realize like when Pauline said something about the passion and getting, I got a little scared. I got a little adrenaline. And just in processing this, I realized, I'm trying to think, because I love a good conversation and I can engage in a conversation. And I love to hear different people's ideas. I like different perspectives. But then something in me got scared or upset then. And so what I've realized is that a lot of my history in the family was that I could speak, but I didn't feel safe because it could get very easily twisted and turned around to be attacking me, like my words would be used against me. And so there was this fear of, when is it safe to speak and when is it not safe to speak? And I think that's, let me just stop this ringer. I think that's, I don't multitask, so now that just kind of threw me off. Let me come back to where I was. So and here I feel safe enough to say what I'm saying. And I have come to realize now I can distinguish when I feel safe and not to be scared anytime anybody brings up something about, speaking passionately, because I love to do that. Anyway, it's just been helpful for me. And let's see. I had written some notes. I'm going to mention one thing and then we'll move. But I just have this sense within me that I believe in the innate goodness, if you will, or purity of all sentient beings. And I believe in the interwovenness of all life and the interaction. And when I'm triggered, and at the same time when I'm triggered by something, to me, it's touching on something in me that's not yet healed. And so I kind of go back into, like, what am I projecting out there that's showing up in someone else that I need to work on in myself? And I know it's more difficult with those, for me, that I'm closest with. So I did come up with something that I say to myself. So at times I must ask myself, am I approaching this with animosity or curiosity?
Mm.
And if the former, then I have more work to do on myself.
Mm.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you all for creating this safe space for me to speak.
What I became aware of too was the danger of being misunderstood when speaking up. When you, Lynn, asked me something about yourself, I was taken back and not understanding how you misunderstood what I had said. But of course, you could take it that way too. But that is one of the dangers of speaking up. I don't know. That's it.
No, that's the same for me. I don't want to be misunderstood, and so I'll go out of my way to make sure that I'm like communicating clearly. And then sometimes I realize I'm talking to a wall, and no matter what I say, it's not going to matter. So coming back to my center.
Yes. So I guess what helps me, and I know it seems Pollyannish, but to try to work on the basis of love and kindness and try to eliminate the hatred. Hatred just, I cringe with hatred. It's such a horrible, horrible feeling that is so destructive that it frightens me because I see just how much damage it does to people. I don't know. That's just obvious and concrete and Pollyannish, I guess. I'm going to shut up. I like your question, Chashi, about being the frog at the bottom of the well and having a serpent coming in. That's a whole different, a huge question.
Yeah, I'll speak. I think what Shashi said was maybe sounded like it resonated with what I was going to say, but more poetically. So it's I've been with this question a lot, and I couldn't make Lynn's groups. I was just overcommitted. But what I know is that I spend time with people who I would imagine are in a similar position on the political spectrum to me. And yet it's still just so hard. And I know when I get a no, it's like this. When I receive someone doing that, when they say this is the right thing, and I see that in their eyes and their tone, and even if they're asking, why did you do this? But I hear they're not actually asking with any curiosity. I know that when that happens, I just get so shut down, and it's not from a obvious like that I'm scared of them so much as that it just feels just pointless. It's either pointless, or if I say it, it's just going to be met with antagonism because it's not a real question. I'm just going to be seen like I'm doing something over on them. And I just feel like, what's the point? And so what I don't know is what to do then, because it feels all over the fractally. It just feels everywhere. So although I've not been in these groups, they've been in my heart, and I'm very glad to join you today. And
very glad you're here. I know that moment that turns into a chess game or something. It's useless feeling.
And if I stay in it, I'll start to make the moves too.
Yes.
I am deeply enjoying the silence that we just shared, that I broke. And I feel moved to say how much this means, what we've been doing today. So I feel grateful for everyone who said something about themselves or about what they think or what they want.
Email templates gives you access to.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
What's the message there? But I really appreciate how we are putting ourselves there. And I feel very stimulated by everything that was said, to the point that I don't even know if I have anything to say. But I really want to say how inspired I felt by a lot of the things I heard. And inspired in terms of like the vitality that I feel in my body that wasn't there maybe when I joined. From the, your questions, Lynn, you're inciting us to really come into the game and play, even when it's difficult. And Grace's comment about what's on your heart. And I felt very motivated, and like with everything that Pauline said, I felt like our whole field in that moment got just like a little jump upwards. So I really appreciate what we are doing, and I'm very thankful. And I also feel like I have nothing to offer other than that.
You gave us so much just then, like the cheerleader.
But it worries me now. I had a reaction inside my body that now we're all one and we all love each other. And for me, that's a threat.
I didn't mention love.
I know I like to exaggerate. Sorry.
No, that's great. I think
there's
that's
like
great,
a we
Liz.
are all one, and then I'm always feeling, oh God, then I felt a real feeling of threat, and then I better go underground if I have any thought or a feeling that doesn't go along with this wonderful group who's, we are all one. So, and I know from experience now that you can pretty much say anything here and it will be accepted and reflected, but it's just a feeling of having, now we're a solid group, and even to the point that we, including me, didn't want to go into breakout rooms, but we didn't want to break up, now, because we're so together. And so now my whatever inner Trump or Hitler or whatever has to go underground yet again.
Hi, Liz. I just kind of want to say that we didn't decide to not go into break-rounds. The decision wasn't made. So maybe that we just were shocked. It could be love. It could be submission, but we didn't individually make, so there was no democratic vote taken. I was okay with that because I think I was shocked after I was passionate. I was just glad I got away with it. In myself, that I wasn't feeling shamed afterwards. Myself. It wasn't that no one shamed me. So I think that the submission, or not the submission, the whatever I'm hearing from you, and I have no idea until I check with you, whatever that oneness is. It could be anything, it could be just like we got through that, so I don't know. So I just wanted to say that, that.
I think what I want to share is that I sometimes have trouble entering a group, and because the predominant feeling seems to be a sense of a group and people feeling good about being in a group, it's like I don't want to leave and go away and not be here. And so even though it feels like a risk to me, it feels like I haven't been able to formulate my thoughts today. And sometimes that happens to me. I just don't have access to that intellectual part of myself and that language to form my thoughts. But that, I guess today I don't want that to then mean this old pattern of that disappearing from all of you. Because that's not what we're about. It's not like my original family. I can come out and say, I'm here even if I can't speak, even if I can't articulate my thoughts. I'm still here. And I am a part of this group. So thank you. That helped me just to be here.
Lynn, can I say something? And I feel like I wanted my well to grow bigger. I wanted to know the answer, what to do with the serpent. And we have gone into the old process of group dynamics and the interpersonal dynamics of how it's fine. I mean, it's okay, but I don't think I'm going to get my answer or get my well bigger today from this. That is my wish, but that it doesn't have to come true. I mean, it takes more than that, I think. I'm sorry.
When you said that, Sachi, I really felt it so strongly. That sense of, yes, that's the edge. And I imagined myself as an Israeli with my sons being of age to go to war. And how would I feel? What would I do? How would I be? And maybe, all of us have that situation somehow in our situatedness of that edge of, oh my God, how can I be in this world? How can I be with the serpent at the door?
I haven't found an answer. I haven't expanded in my vision even a little bit yet from this conversation. But that's me. I don't know. It's I don't want to be opinionated. I don't want to be rigid. I don't want to be fundamentalist. I want to be able to do this, consider the multiplicity of the points of views of life and philosophy and what have you. But what do I do in this situation?
I just wish that there could be clarification. I feel like there's something that I'm supposed to understand about this that I don't understand. Is it that there's a values clash, that you feel certain ways, but you don't want to feel them, you want to feel other ways? Or
are you asking?
Yeah.
No, it's nothing. I'm just saying, when I'm faced with the serpent, what do I do? Where do my political, social, philosophy, views, understanding goes at that point? How can I expand my mind? What do I do then?
I think Liz is asking you to be more concrete in how that serpent is coming to your door or your well right now.
Well, how concrete can I get?
An example.
No, I mean that's as concrete as it gets sometimes. I'm not living in a well, and I'm not a frog, and the serpent is not my door. But when it comes down to safety, survival, when you're really confronted with it face to face, what happens to your social, political philosophies and values? That is my question. That's to me, that's the reality. Because it's all, we're all living very nicely. Everything is fine.
But I guess I'm more primitive than that. I'm bringing my primitive self to it. I feel like if somebody, is coming and threatening my life, I kind of would be more instinctual about it and not feel that I'm supposed to have some fancy thoughts or beliefs about it. I would just try to keep myself and the people around me alive and worry about how my values later, so that's what I'm offering as it's not an answer, but just like my animal part, I would allow it to kick in.
All right. So that's an answer.
Well, the word survival was used before.
Stephanie's been trying to speak.
Yeah, thank you, Sashi, for this image, because what came to me, why these socio-political topics have so much charge, is it in the end not the frog and the serpent and safety and survival? And thank you so much for this image, because if a discussion gets heated, I will see, where is the serpent here, and what are the threats. And this is such a wonderful image for me. It might be different for you, but you gave me, this is how your image landed for me. Where is the threat? Where is the safety endangered? And how can things maybe, is it really that dangerous? How can things might be negotiated, or how is there a bridge, or might there be just different needs and environments, and has there to be a God? Yeah. There, I don't know, but what came to me, why this is so difficult to meet with other people, because it touches really so deep on the safety and survival.
Yes.
And so sometimes, also, immediately, in a way.
Yeah.
That's all I have to say.
This is bringing me to a strange place. I'm thinking, what if the serpent is a projection of my own fear on others? I'm creating the world that I don't want because I'm full of fear about my own projection. And by trying to solve it, I'm fueling it. Because I'm trying to solve it by changing others. Or changing maybe my own feeling about what I believe others are in the way I make myself experience reality. I don't know if this makes sense, but
Hi, Michael. It doesn't make sense to me.
What I mean is that.
Pardon?
Go ahead.
I'm curious, but it doesn't make sense because it's metaphorical, But I'm curious. But in the context when others want to say hello or whatever, So, but you asked, did it make sense? And it just didn't make sense to me. But that doesn't mean that I can't understand, and I don't know that I can commit to understand. And that, to me, is a political statement, in the sense of contractual, that we show up every Monday. But it just didn't make sense. So,
what I'm trying to say is that when we want, let's say, quote unquote, change in our lives or in the world, where do we feel the change needs to start? Where does the change happen? Do we see the change starting with our own perception of what we project? That's why focusing was useful for me, because it gives me an opportunity to coming home where everything happens in my own understanding of what reality is all about, feeling it. This is me. This is me with all the thoughts and experiences that I've created, also with all the stimulation that's happening around me, the decisions I made and everything. It comes from my own powerlessness when I was a child or whatever, I don't know.
It makes sense to me, Mikhail, but that's one side, right?
Okay, I like that.
I am a microcosm, but the other side, I think that doesn't make sense. I'm imagining to Pauline is there's an election. I go there. Here I am faced with choices. How do I go inside and say to myself, what's best? Or how do I? But we are always, in a way, faced with the serpent. And we don't even know that we are, both inside and outside. And we have to make choices and I don't know. Let's. We have only 2 more minutes. I don't want to take.
Yeah. And
two more people. Yeah. I heard a couple therapist, and she said the first step when she works with couples is to help each of them see that their version of the event is a subjective rendering.
Mm-hmm.
And she said the way couples or the polarization in our politics talk about the exact same event,
Mm-hmm.
you would never think that they were actually in the same room.
That's right.
And so the first step is to really acknowledge that each version is a subjective rendering. And I think sometimes I think it's great to have and to know where we feel safe to speak. But I think that's also a risk, because sometimes I might think I talk about politics or talk about a work situation, but maybe what I'm actually talking about is something from my childhood. And so it's always, I think it really is a risk to speak up. And so I think any space where we can aim for authenticity is really, it's really, really great. So I'm happy to be here, and I'm sorry I couldn't make it from the beginning.
Wow. And then Abby, you were wanting to speak too. Thank you, Robert.
I'll make it really quick. I just feel I've heard a couple of times today of, I don't want to be fundamentalist, I don't want to be hateful. And there's just like a suppression of energy. And then I was just hearing, like, for example, Pauline and Liz also speaking up. So I wonder if it just kind of brings some levity to it. What if we had like a fundamentalist party and bring our fundamentalist in the room and then let them play with each other and let that energy out and then see what's on the other side once we release that? Because instead of trying to police, like, let's just play with it and let it be liberated, because there's probably something, on the other side of that.
And Dorothy has a poem that Lynn brought for today.
Is there any last comments before we have the poem?
Thank you for bringing that up, Gail and Robert. I'm all for investigating the snake, whether it is a snake or a piece of rope, or but maybe it's a snake. And but thank you for bringing that up.
I just want to say that I thank you all so much for coming and playing with me today, and I was sort of delighted by Abby's suggestion that we have a fundamentalist party. But I want to invite you, Abby, to come to any of my social conversations that turn political of my peers. And everybody will be talking at once from their fundamentalist places. And I think you might have a good time, but they don't get to the other side. And so we're trying to see, how do we include our fundamentalist selves and get to the other side? How do we get the energy and the boldness and the freeness and also the thoughtfulness and introspection, and how can we be our serpent selves and also our frog selves? Thank you all very much.
For Nettie, do not break the heart of the crying. Oh, I just want to say before I start, for those who don't know, I had to look it up, I forgot. A terrapin is a turtle, a small turtle. For Nettie, do not break the heart of the crying terrapin. Get to know him. Let him in. He stands and scratches at your door. Let him in. Take his claw. Take his claw and stroke his shell, his scraggly face and wrinkled neck. Soothe him quietly to your breast. Hold him gently. Take him in. Let him weep and weep. He has come to you from far away, his tears from long ago, so don't refuse his plucking claw upon your silken blouse. Go with him to the river, for there he lives and there he breathes, and graceful dives and silent seas. If you'll go to that dark place where grasses dream and mud swirls thick, he may become the slow, dark wild of bitter herb and cedarwood, with wings of angels on his feet, red bitter wine upon his tongue, and he may love you very slow, with sky and rivers in his eyes, and bless you with his forest. Do not shun the terrapin. Hold him closer. Let him in.
Thank you, Dorothy.
Thank you.
See you all next week. And write to me if you have any more thoughts or more thoughts about having this kind of conversation and where we could go from here.